Just say it, man. Don't make me ask 20 questions.
What is the point?
Get to the point.
Just say it already!
Welcome to the Podcram. Let's hear what Benjamin Dennehy had to say about sales on Modern Wisdom episode 128 with host Chris Williamson.
So why you hated? Why are you the UK's most hated sales trainer? Why?
I get asked that all the time. In fact, I gave a speech on it last Thursday to a room full of businessmen. There's no international standard by which this is measured. I created it. I created the character. I was given some advice by a man who created his own brand. Have you ever heard of Brad Burton?
No.
He's a UK's number one motivational speaker. And I asked him, how did he become number one? And he said, read my book, page 26. So I read his book, page 26, and he said, I made it up.
And he got you to buy the book.
Yeah. And I thought, well, that's quite genius. And basically the rule to it, I guess, I'm not a marketeer, never trained in it, never studied it, but it's not hard to realize that the easiest way to get known is to create a message and just keep hammering it. Like, let's get Brexit done. That was a classic, or take back control. Simple message, just push it out over and over again. So I created the UK's most hated sales trainer by, first of all, what did nobody want to be? And I looked at LinkedIn and everyone's number one, the best leader, professional, guru, Jedi, all self-aggrandizing BS. So I thought, what does no one want to be? No one wants to be hated. And so I thought, well, I'll go with the UK's way. And then I thought, it makes no sense. And I thought, well, that's what makes it genius. It makes why would you be hated?
Mm-hmm.
And then it gave me carte blanche to just be myself, which is naturally quite blunt and direct. Mm-hmm. So that worked well. But it's grown into something quite, bigger than I thought it would get. And I just create a space and own it.
I like it. Well, niching down something that a lot of people in business will get advised to do, right? And I mean, if you create your own market, you are by virtue, you are the market leader. I mean, I think back to Mike's, the UK's number one demotivational speaker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, who possibly could come into my world and say, no, I'm more hated? A professional is someone who's mastered the basics, has consistent habit, behavior, and belief.
What are the things they should be drilling every day?
Well, prospecting. Every business sinks or swims on your ability to generate leads. And I hate the word leads, but basically I want to talk to decision makers in my target market that may or may not have problems I can fix. Now, I don't know if they have problems I can fix until I phone them and ask them. Now, I've chosen them because statistically they fall into a category of person that should. Doesn't mean they will. So my job is to consistently be speaking to people that may need what I have, diagnosing if they do. And if they do, we figure out how we move forwards, or we figure out they do need me, but they can't afford me, or we figure out they do need me, but they can't make a decision or the decision's not there. So it's all about prospecting. And prospecting, bizarrely, isn't selling. It's a different word, prospecting. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's a skill set in and of itself. Getting in front of people is a skill. Then once you're there, you begin the sales process. And to me, selling is all about disqualifying, not qualifying. It's the exact opposite. Well, put it this way. There are more reasons for a person not to work with me than there are to work with me.
Yeah, there's only a couple of reasons to work with you, but there's an entire universe of reasons to tell you to fuck off. Yeah.
So I'm going to figure out all the reasons why you can't work with me and have you argue with me over why I'm wrong and that's not a reason why we can't. And when I go through that process, it's completely reversed from what most salespeople used to do. It works because the prospect does all the work. They're the ones arguing with me that no, we don't want to try outsourcing our prospecting. We don't want to hire new people. We don't want to fire people. We don't want to increase our prices. They rule out all the alternatives. And then what's left is me.
Your product.
My product and me. So there are many ways to fix a sales problem. You don't need a sales trainer. Put your prices up. It's easy. Yeah, but our salesman can't sell at that level. Right, so you can't put your prices up. Fire your crappy salesman. We don't want to fire her. We're nice people. There are many alternatives. And my job is to get them to rule out all of them. So what they're left with
for you
is me.
So we've talked about what you think makes a good salesperson. That is someone who drills the basics, who has a framework, they stick to, they follow
consistency, and
Cool.
prospects every day, a little bit often. I'm not talking 7 hours straight, but consistent prospecting. Yeah, very important.
Okay, so that's what makes a good salesperson. So what are the common things you see that make a bad salesperson? Because from my experience, I know a number of people that are in all sorts of sales, from normal telesales on bottom end consumer products, B2B, B2C, IT stuff, recruitment. And there's some guys and girls who are in those positions. And I think you've got that job because you're a bit extroverted, you're a gobby shite, and you've managed to fall into a position that it looks like you have the simulacrum of competence. What you have is sort of loudness and brashness.
Yeah, that's very common. So, most people think selling is the gift of the gab, the ability to convince, and the ability to get across complex ideas simplistically. Most salespeople are losers. No one's in sales out of choice.
It's kind of like last ditch, isn't it?
Most people at school, when they're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Maybe 1 in every 10,000 said a salesman. But 99.9% of people in sales fell into it. They needed a job and they ended up in sales and they got stuck. And about 3 or 4 years in, they realized they had no transferable skill. So then they just go from sales job to sales job. And what happens is most salesmen, when I ask the average MD, be honest, be really honest. Do you have salesmen or do you have order takers? Most of their sales come from existing customers who just give them orders. Yeah, they came to us, they needed what we had, and we were able to fulfill. When you break down the actual selling, which is finding people that didn't know they needed what you have and then enabling them to discover that you did, now that's selling. I ask them to close their eyes and listen to them on the phone. And I say, do you hear grown-ups, or do you hear a little wimp kid, or do you hear an angry kid? And they say, I hear children.
What do you mean?
If you listen to the average salesperson on the phone, they're very needy, beggy, and pleady. Sorry to disturb you. Is now a good time? That's a losery thing to say. Yeah. You've just interrupted a busy person, and your first thing to do is apologize for wasting their time.
Before you've even wasted their time.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you sound like a bit of a loser. So, and you hear them begging people, and then they start arguing with people. So imagine being a doctor who specializes in the flu, and you phone people up and you say, people typically have an appointment with me because they have a runny nose, they're feeling lethargic, and they got a sore throat. And the guy says, I don't have any of those. He goes, well, yes, you should. This is what salespeople are like, right? And they argue with prospects, and because they're so, because they said, well, you must have these problems, and we're phoning you because we know you're a company that should. That's true, but maybe not right now. Just like everyone will get the flu at some point, it doesn't mean the moment you call them, they recognize it. And so when you listen to them on the phone, they're very needy, very beggy, very pleady, very subservient. They're scared to ask questions, and they spend most of their time doing the talking because all a prospect has to do is fire one question. So what is it that you do? And then they vomit on them. So I spend my life phoning MDs and CEOs. I have to sound and act like an MD or a CEO because that people buy people like them. So a guy in a Hawaiian shirt will sell to a guy in a Hawaiian shirt.
Okay.
A guy in a Hawaiian shirt talking to the guy in the pinstripe suit, it ain't going far very quickly. So when you phone up an MD or a CEO, you have to sound and act like one. And what do they sound like? They're short, sharp, clipped, authoritative, and direct. If you don't sound like that when you get through to me, I instantly hear, oh, I'm so sorry to disturb you. Look, let me just have 30 seconds to introduce my company. I think loser.
So what's the alternative? What's your approach?
My approach is just blunt. I say, look, I'll be up front. This is sales school. So you can either hang up or let me have 30 seconds. What do you want to do? Force them to make a choice. And most say, oh, go on, then what's it about? I go, well, look, if you don't like it, we can end it at 30 seconds. Fair, fine. And then I talk about what I fix very authoritatively. And if he asks me a question, well, what is it that you do, Benjamin? Well, I fix problems like this. You're going to tell me that doesn't interest you, right? Well, no. Well, how do I fix it? Well, I'll be upfront with you, sir. That's what you're going to pay me a lot of money to figure out, right? If I tell you that now, you won't need me. And I go, well, no, that's fair. So my question is, do you recognize these problems in your world? Yeah. Okay. So a few more questions before I agree to meet with you.
Power's shifted.
It's all about I'm in control. I know that if you have problems I can fix, you should be grateful I phoned you. I know what I fix and I'm damn good at it. So the question is, do you have problems? And I need you to feel and believe maybe this guy's got something. He certainly sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And that's not blagging, and that's not gift of the gabbing, and it's not the crap you see on The Apprentice and all that. You know, in the real world, that doesn't work. You can badger someone into buying from you, don't get me wrong. But these are the people that then phone up a few days later and said, actually, I've changed my mind. Because a professional has consistent outcomes, and they're more interested in how they get to where they're going as opposed to whether or not they get there. That is the key thing. I don't care if someone buys from me. What I care about is how I got to the point where they made the decision they weren't going to buy from me. Because if they should have bought from me and they've decided not to, it means I've done something wrong, which means I can fix it. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we get all the way and they buy, I can say I know exactly why they bought, as opposed to I think it's because they liked us.
Yeah, you were saying to Mike that you're able to walk backward through your particular sales pitch to most people.
I gave him one last reason not to meet with me. Before that, we agreed what would happen by the end of that meeting. Before that, I asked him to invite me in. Before that, I finished on a series of 6 questions which were designed to move him from intellect to emotion. Before that, I got permission to ask those questions. Before that, I asked him, did any of the 3 pains that I suggested relate to him? Before that, I did my 30-second pain commercial. Before that, I did a pattern interrupt to get permission to do the circuit. Before that, I thought to myself before I picked up the phone, this guy's lucky I'm calling him.
That's awesome.
Yeah?
That is.
And that's process, it's structure, and every call I make goes the same way. It never changes.
Thanks for listening to this installment of The Podcram. I hope it contains something useful for you. If you enjoy these selections and are curious about the curator's own thoughts, you can check out my other podcast, Psychic Lube, where I share concise concepts meant to grease the intellectual gears and help get your creative juices flowing. Each episode is an ongoing collaborative project that welcomes listeners to expand or rebut its points by email or comment, the most interesting of which get incorporated through periodic re-recordings. As always, if you're intrigued by today's content, I encourage you to go listen to the full podcast in its original form directly from its creators so that their sponsors keep paying them to make stuff for us and nobody feels compelled to sue me for copyright infringement. Now, get off your phone and go do smart stuff. Have a productive day.